Oh, I should find the
All right.
stream.
All right. We're live again. Uh t-
Hello.
uh yeah, it's Martel and myself, and today we are going back, we're going to finish going over uh booklet 9. Now Martel had some notes that he wanted to have go over on some stuff that I covered last week. Uh Starting on page 317. So we'll let Martel go over those notes, and then I'll jump in about on about page 332 with new notes for that I have for this week.
I mean,
So,
you're definitely going to comment on stuff because you
yeah,
always.
yeah. I mean, I'm just saying my notes. I won't go over my notes because I went over those last week.
Sure, sure. So on you might have also gone over this, but on the five Greek words part
Mm-hmm.
over there in section one, he takes five. He says there are five words to use in the New Testament for peace,
Yep.
and then identify the ones that best function as peacemaker. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's so disingenuous to say I want to here's this Greek word and I want to study the Greek because it's important. But rather than use the Greek word that Jesus used, let's look at other words nearby to see if those match up and see how we hey deviant, what's going on? And you can't like it's just this is proof texting. You can't reinterpret the Sermon on the Mount via vocabulary lesson on New Testament Greek. Peacemaker is the word. It's the word Jesus chose. It's probably the word uh, you know, that we should be defining, not what does peace mean, and then trying to get some sort of philosophical inner peace and outward peace.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. The note I made last week on this, I did say something about that, but just that none of the words that they mentioned this define describes anything close to what they mean when they say peacemaker.
well, I mean
We,
that's also true, but it's disingenuous to be like we want to define peacemaker, so let's look at words that define peace. Like Jesus said, "Blessed are the peacemakers, because they'll be called the sons of God." Like that's the verse.
mm-hmm.
We don't have to think about other things that it means because Jesus said, "Hey, this is what I mean."
Yeah, and really the word that he used is um like a an inner peace type piece too.
Right, right.
So
Like this is just Bill Gothard wanting to make uh like he really wants this to be about witnessing, not about what it's about. And so he has to make some stuff up.
yeah, yeah, for sure. All right.
And then so on number 1, external peace is not in this world is not humanly possible. Does the Bible actually say that?
Um, I would say it at least imply. I can't get it to highlight without bring up uh, a pop up menu. So I'll just anyway. Does the Bible actually say that? I would say it implies it at least. I mean, well, yeah, the Bible implies it with the words that Jesus says. Like uh, talking about wars always being around and stuff like that. So I would say, yeah, it certainly it may not be in those words, but it certainly says that. Yeah.
I mean, he definitely talks about uh there being an inner problem, but like Gothard's talking about like not true peace, but like the external peace, the one that's not as good. And I don't know how he can say that without God you can't have peace. Like we in his own book we talk about the peace child. Like people declared peace. It's the thing that happens.
Right.
Like
So
I
so I think like when they're talking about when he's saying external peace in this world is not humanly possible. I think what he's saying is like a peace that won't end. You know, because like Christians think that nothing is really real unless it's this way for the rest of eternity. Like, because they'll say, what's the point of having this life if you're not going to live forever? And it's like, well, but you still have this life, even if you
Right.
don't. And so they're applying that same idea to peace. They're saying, what's the point of this peace if there's going to be a war sometime? And I think that's kind of where he's coming from on this. And I would say that the Bible would support that, and I would agree that I don't think an eternal peace is possible.
I assumed when he said external peace that he meant like there can't be a peace that lasts at all, or like you can't have. I just don't I don't buy that this is the only religion that can create peace. That doesn't seem to be a conclusion that the Bible brings up. It just seems like proselytizing.
Yeah,
and,
I mean,
and
go ahead.
and then he goes on and he's like, only God can bring true peace, which I don't see that as a true statement with the peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you, not as the world gift I give unto you. I don't think that means that all peace can come from God. Like peace with God, yes, that can only come from God. Maybe even peace with yourself, but I don't see the Bible saying that, like, because like it compliments heathen nations for being peaceful and doing honorable things in the Old Testament.
Sure.
Um,
I think it comes back to this to a Christian. So you've got this internal peace, and like when Jesus says, "My peace I leave with you," they think about it's this internal peace, And,
I guess
and that's what you get. That's what you get today.
Today, yes, but I don't think that's what Jesus was talking about.
Maybe so. I haven't looked at the Greek that he used there, and I don't
I
know.
like I think I think the what Jesus is talking about is blessed are those who make peace, who make the world better around them.
Oh no!
Who
In
like
the gospel, in the Sermon on the Mount,
yes,
that peace, that Greek word, is talking about an internal peace. Like that. It's not talking about making peace with the world. It's talking about people who have an internal peace, what we called the children of God.
really?
Yeah.
That wasn't what I got from the Greek.
Well, that's what I got from the Greek. Maybe.
Okay. I mean, I'm definitely willing to be wrong. I'm hardly an expert.
Me neither.
I use the same resources you do, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
It's well, so it's this number 4 up at the top of the second column. The to experience tranquility in the midst of conflict. That is the word. It's a version of that word. It had some more on the end of it, but it starts with the a rene.
Right.
That's the word that Jesus used in the Sermon on the Mount. And so to me, that experience tranquility in the midst of conflict, that's an inner peace. Obviously, if you're in the midst of conflict, that's not a peace that's external.
Well, okay. I got a different thing from it, but that's fine. And then number 3 really bothered me.
I talked about number 3 too.
Yeah, I know. Like Christians aren't a monolith, neither is the world. And like even for people that the world really respects, like Mother Teresa is known for her goodness.
Okay.
Well, I mean, amongst some, like, I guess maybe not.
No, she's. There are Christians who hold her up as an ideal, but she did a lot of really bad things.
I agree with that, but when you say Mother Teresa, you like it is understood that you are talking about a fairly good person.
Okay. Okay. Wait, I can grant you that.
Like there's just in the cultural whatever, but people don't look at uh, Mother Teresa and say, "Oh, she was good because of God." They're just like, "Oh, that was a really good person." Even in the most pious whatevers, uh, it's not. I don't know where he gets the idea that the world always sees the God in what his people do.
Sure. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, I would agree with that. Bennett says a lot of people think of Mother Teresa as a humanitarian, and maybe
yeah,
they do. I just it maybe I'm jaded in my perception of her.
I find that possible and likely.
All right. We
Um,
go ahead. Go ahead.
one second.
Okay.
So on the next, I guess I'm on the next page on 318. Um, the the number 6. You working for God's peace will produce conflict on the basis that Jesus warned, "Think not that I came to send peace on this earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword." That verse is not Matthew 10 is not about witnessing causing conflict. Um, like it goes on that verse goes on to talk about the disruption in families, which goes against that umbrella of protection. But like
Oh, you can't bring
it's
that up.
really
They haven't talked about that yet.
well, sure, but it's in the thing. But the idea of authority descending from father to from pastor from God to pastor to father to mother to children is what is disrupted by Matthew 10 if you read the next few verses. It is not that working for God's peace will produce conflict. Like Christ again and again talked about having a good reputation and not like not working doing good works, but like that people would see your good works and they will know them. We're not Christians are not supposed to be in conflict all the time.
Right.
But this twisted ideology wants that to be the case. And I don't like it. Um,
Oh, here you go. This next paragraph, and that was one of my notes. That's where they talk about the word that Jesus used in the Sermon on the Mount for peacemaker.
right.
Anyway,
Right. I know that's what Gothard says, but I don't like that. I have to look it up again, about my notes again. But I don't think that's what I think it meant literal peace.
okay,
But
maybe it did. I
I mean
was I
that's just us disagreeing on a language that neither of us understand, and we both read a different definition. So I don't know whose internet source is better.
sure.
Um, I did talk to a friend of mine. We get to skip far forward now.
To what page?
On page 323. Um, I tried to get a cohesive note on where they talked about um, the letters for lamb and I and righteousness all somehow making a cross and being secret code for Christianity. Um, my friend who reads and writes Chinese laughed for quite a while and then launched into a very long thing that I didn't understand, but this was ridiculous. Um,
Well, I'm sure. I mean, I don't know how old the Chinese language is, but their culture is certainly older than Christianity. And
they, they brought that up, yeah. Um, I yeah, I don't know. That was good. Um, so the more I actually took the time to read through all these examples of like they're trying to say that like life began as the Bible says about 6,000 years ago, and that in those 6,000 years, all the civilization in the world got spread out and somehow lost the word of God.
Right.
And so there's these bits in all these theologies as the missionaries go around and tell people, hey, you worship Viracocha, the one true God. Well, Viracocha is actually my God, and you guys got it wrong. Like, this isn't bits of where Christian missionaries found Christian theology in other places. This is places where Christians twisted Christian theology and local theology to make a mishmash that kind of worked to convert some people, which is very Christian, but I don't know why they're bragging about it.
Right. Actually, so I did talk about that last week.
Yeah. You did.
And there was a comment from a lady that teaches. She's from the U.S., but she is part Korean and lives and teaches in Korea right now. And she made a comment on that. Let me bring that up because I thought it was pretty cool. Let's see here. Let's see. Where is it? Okay. So she says, my home's culture's creation story is completely different from the one in the Bible. I agree. So it's to basically say your views are just a corrupted version of mine, and we had enough of that when the invaders tried to interpret our cultural practices. So like she's agreeing with us, that's it's just
yeah.
But yeah. So
did you read the thing about the Wilson guys analogies?
I did. I don't remember what they were, but I did read that whole story.
Okay, so there was one
On what page?
327. Under page under note 3, and he's having trouble getting an audience to listen to him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he places a black derby hat upside down on the sidewalk and puts a handkerchief on it and then starts looking at it funny.
Right.
And so people stop to look at him, and then he starts talking about God. Was the handkerchief, like, did it actually do anything, or was it just like, this guy does weird stuff and it kind of worked to get people's attention?
That's how I took it. I don't know this guy, and I don't know the story other than from this book, but I just kind of took it. He's doing something weird, and people are like, hey, you're doing something weird. Why are you doing that weird thing?
Right. And then he talked about going on about how you could you'd be talking about can't remember the exact word he said, but you'd be like, hey, I got a new floor put in my house, and you'd be like, new floor, you know how Christ is a new floor? And would just turn every situation into, like, he talking about sequoia trees. He talks about, what else is 6,000 years old? The world. Like, I would just not want to be around this guy. I would be so annoyed at someone who turns everything. I don't think this is someone we should should brag in.
But that's exactly what they do. Like, I mean, their whole shtick is everything that happens in life is teaching us a spiritual lesson. So of course they're going to this guy's going to resonate with him if he can turn every talking point into some kind of spiritual point.
Ugh. We must have been so annoying to talk to people. Like, I'm retroactively very embarrassed and sorry. Another thing I just a general question on, I don't know if this is just IBLP or if this is like Christianity in general. Why do they cliff notes the Bible? Like, on page 329, uh, they begin to go over like their Romans 3:23 and the start of the Romans road. You remember?
Mm-hmm.
Um, um, no, I never noticed you were annoying. Not once. You were always great. To the chat. Um, as are all my brothers and sisters and family. Everyone is great. Um, so Jesus has these lovely sermons about how to be selfless and how to be kind and how to give of yourself and how to do all these things. But when people witness in the modern day, they don't teach that. They're like, you want this, you want Romans 3:23, you want Romans 6:23, you want Ecclesiastes 7:20, you want Isaiah 64:6, and you're just like, hit these bangers that are like the Cliff Notes version of Christianity. Why do we edit out Jesus? Or why did they edit out Jesus?
I mean, it, it. I mean, in some ways, you have to do that. Like, have you ever heard of an elevator pitch?
Yeah.
Okay, this is the elevator pitch for Christianity. It has to be short. You have to pick out like kind of an outline to say here, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 in a quick time, because you're talking to someone that you're probably never going to see again. You're only going to get 5 to 10 minutes of their time, and you got to get this out to them.
But it even when I was a Christian, it always bothered me that in all the Bible tracts and all the like, this is what you do, none of them are the red letter words. None of them are the words of Jesus. Like if Christ came to save us, shouldn't his words be the most important?
I mean, you got me there. I never really thought about that too much. I was told the Roman road was the kind of the gold standard for witnessing, and I don't think I ever used it once.
You never drew out the little cross with the people on one side and the people on the other side walking across the bridge made from the bloods and the arms and stuff?
No, I don't. I pretty much assumed most people I knew were already Christian, and so who am I going to be witnessing to?
You were probably a lot more popular than me for some reason.
I was not popular at all.
What? You had a black leather jacket and a bandana. You were the coolest, I thought. Um, okay, so let's pick up on, I think we're on 332.
Yeah, okay. So now we're getting into the new stuff for me too.
Yeah, which like they do a halfway decent like math lesson here.
Yeah, this math lesson isn't too bad. I have some thoughts
although
on it, the lesson overall. And
like
most of my notes are just like kind of nitpicks about certain details.
I mean, it is somewhat creepy that they take the classic mind experiment to show people what multiplication works, where you take the emperor who wages 1 grain of rice per chess move, and soon the chess guy owns all the rice in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, so instead of using rice, we're going to use believers and make this a pyramid scheme.
Right.
So, but I mean, it is a cult, so like they're going to do creepy stuff like that. But it like, I'm sure I wondered as a kid, like, what have these people been doing?
Hold on, just so we can tell them, what this math lesson is like kind of framing is, and I'll read the question out. How long would it take to evangelize the entire world if you led just one person to Christ each day, and each one of them did the same? So it's an exponential growth of Christianity, where it doubles in size every day. That's kind of what this is about. So that's kind of what we're discussing. Anyway, go ahead, Martel.
So just like I think I remember hearing this as a kid and wondering when we were supposed to start because clearly we hadn't started yet. Because if the Christians had been doing this the whole time, like in 2000 days we get the whole world. And
Right.
so I was just like, there must then we must not have said go.
Well, I remember hearing this as a kid, and I was like, oh well, obviously it takes more than one. You can't convert one person every day, and a person
I
who's
have
only been
said for I've said for a long time that you're smarter than me, and it's still true. I thought they were just like so I was like I for a minute there I was like got to be ready to get my Romans Road stuff ready for when they say go because I got to talk to the one kid in class who says he's not a Christian.
right. Okay. All right. So, do you have any notes on this page specifically? Any specific notes?
Um
I have three. So
oh go ahead. Go
okay.
ahead.
So my first one is the world population as of July 1st, 1985, which this was written in 1984. So I don't know how they knew what the population was as of July 1st, 1985, but it is what it is. But it's 4.845 billion. And that's like okay. I mean, maybe yeah. That's I looked up and that's fairly looks like it's reasonably accurate. It's just crazy to me that we are at 8.2 billion now. Like in 40 years, we have added almost 4 billion people.
Mm-hmm.
That's just insane to me. And I just has nothing to do with this book. It's just like that's just an insane amount of growth to me.
Sure.
Just under. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm moving on to the next note. So
That's fine.
Okay, so just under that, we've got visualize the factors of the problem, and then it's a bunch of words, and which is not a visualization. It's just so I don't. I just think that's kind of funny the way they worded that. But again, it's. I think, like I said, I agree with Martel that overall this is a decent math lesson, if you have the foundation. So I'm nitpicking here more than
I wouldn't say it's a decent math lesson. I say it's decent math.
Well,
Like
yeah,
this is
yeah.
like there's no way that kids are going to be like, yeah, exponential growth, logarithms. Actually, I am today like I don't even remember logarithms.
Yeah, right. Okay, so yeah, I mean, and you're right. Anyway, so this third note though, so they've gone. Step 3 is know the math skills are required, and they go over how you can double the amount by adding the same number twice, or you can just multiply the number by 2. And then they say you can finish the problem to find out how many days it is by math multiplication, or you can learn how to work with exponents, scientific notation, and logarithms. You just go learn that. So, and actually I highlighted that because I thought that was like a weird thing to put, but now that I've read the whole math, that's kind of what they're trying to do in the rest of the math lesson, but I didn't realize that when I was first reading this. All right. My next
You weren't
note
looking
is
at it spiritually.
I know. My next note is on page 334. Do you have any notes on page 333?
333.
333, they're just kind of explaining what scientific notation is, how that works, then exponents, and what logarithms are.
I mean, what? No, I have this. Like, this is. It's weird wording, but it's fine. It's just math.
Yeah. Okay. On page 334, I just have one note about when they start talking about logarithms, which it's really kind of the same note for exponents and scientific notation, and that's in my note. We're in book 9 of this. The kids that are going through this are maybe in the 2nd grade. And if they've only been using these books, they haven't learned any math at all. And now you're trying to just pummel logarithms at them. Like seriously, that's it. They just are not at the place where they should be trying to comprehend this.
No, I just remember this part as the boring section.
Okay.
I mean, in my defense, I was 3 and 4.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, didn't get logarithms yet. Um, Still don't.
Okay. Then we got a
And
table of
then
logarithms.
cool.
And then on page 336, I just had kind of a note over this whole section, which is kind of what we've been talking about. This section is just not appropriate for its place in this curriculum. They haven't taught math, and now they're throwing in like more advanced stuff that isn't even if they've been teaching the math at the place where these students would be at is not appropriate for the students that if they'd been teaching the math they'd be at ready for. And
Right, but it makes the parents feel superior. And I think that's the point.
Oh, I don't know about that. I don't think our parents could have explained the logarithms to us either. All right. Do you have anything more to say about the math section?
I mean, I think putting stuff that's too hard for the kids is something that they did on purpose to make the kids dependent on the parents to explain, to make the kids feel like they needed the parents to do that kind of stuff because the kids didn't get it. I think this is more manipulation, but that's just me.
Sure. And we talked about this before the thing. I told you what I think it is. I think that Bill Gothard, they fetishize the past, particularly like 19th century America. They fetishize that. Like that's the golden standard for a society. And one of the things that was common is one-room schoolhouses where you would go through the same reader every year for as many years as you went to school, and you would just at the beginning of the school you just start that reader over. And what I gather, because I didn't do that, but what I gather is like every year as you went through this reader again, you would pick up more things that the reader's telling you because you have a better basis for it. This curriculum is not meant to be gone through one time in your entire school career. It's meant to be gone through 3 or 4 times. And so I feel like they were fetishizing that idea as the best way to teach kids and putting more advanced stuff in the earlier books because they expect those books to be used, gone through more than once. I think it's crazy to me to think that we had a better educational system in the 19th century than we do today. And
right.
I mean, there are problems with our educational system today, and there's a lot of serious problems. But to think that it was better 150 years ago is just denying reality, in my opinion.
Why do you think they fetishize early America so much? Like, it wasn't that great. Like mortality rate was high, education was bad, we still had slavery. Like it wasn't. It also wasn't like it wasn't one of those like people like the cowboy days, even though they weren't anything like they are in film. But like there's a lot of stories about it, and so I get the romantic. But like they don't really have that for the founding. I don't think
colonial
days.
I don't think they fetishize the Wild West. They fetishize more like maybe just east of the Mississippi, Midwest America, 19th century.
No, I wasn't saying that Gothard and like I understand people that like they kind of live in the past. Like I like the medieval period. But like, why would you be like, no, the best was Pilgrims?
Well, it's because they look at those they well. So there's a couple things going on here. One, you have when you look at the past, um, and you see the past as being good, like 1950s America. You know, it's kind of like, oh yeah, that's the golden age of the U.S. But that's just the way we look at it from today. And there's a lot of reasons we look at it today, but what we look at is not what reality was.
Right.
Um, so when they look at the Pilgrims, or you know, early or late 18th century, early 19th century America, they're looking at what they see it as, not what it really was. And then the other thing is, like, I would say it's reasonable to say that the U.S. was a Christian nation at that time, and the IBLP is definitely uh,
Okay.
part of the they're definitely a major player when you talk about the inception of Christian nationalism. And so, like, of
Okay.
course, that's going to be, you know,
So their draw for that part of the past is that was a time when the Bible got put straight into law. And
well, I mean, I don't think it got put straight into law, but that's
I
how
mean it
they,
did in Jamestown.
uh, it, I don't know about Jamestown. It didn't get put straight into law, uh, by the founding fathers,
No.
but,
I'm
but
talking pre-revolution.
sure,
I mean pre-establishment of the colonies.
sure.
Like
Uh,
because they really do like the Pilgrims and stuff.
yeah, well,
And some of those early ones, like they did try and have like just the Bible is the way.
I don't know that much about the legal
I mean,
system back then, but
not only the Bible, but um, they definitely put bits of scripture straight uh, into the
sure,
law.
sure. Yeah, no, I think I'd agree with that. Um, but that's part of why they're looking at it this way. I think is because, you know, they're idealizing the way Christianity had a foothold in the overall culture, and because of their worldview, they see that as better than it is today. Regardless of all the bad things that happen, they don't see those. They see the how spiritual the U.S. was and how Christian the U.S. was, and that's what they want to get back to.
That's crazy.
Oh, I agree. It,
Like
it
like
it's
it's completely like bad attribution. Like you you don't want to get back to those things if you look at the way people were treated and the things that happened. Like those weren't good times.
no, I agree.
Like
I
we changed laws to make the world better.
Yeah, yeah, and they have different values, and that's what, and their values are better represented in what I don't think, I want to be clear, I don't think that they would be like, yes, let's all be racist, although some of them might be. I don't think a lot of them would be like, let's be racist again, or let's bring back slavery because the US was better when there was slavery, or
I mean,
more Christian when there was slavery. I don't think they would.
I used to think that the stuff MAGA's coming out with makes me doubt. Like I'm real shocked at some of the things people are saying and not being thrown out of office for.
Sure. I mean, and maybe you have a better handle on that than I do. I'm just saying
I mean, I hope I'm wrong.
I just don't think that I don't think that most people would go along with that. Even Even if the leaders did, I don't think most boots on the ground people would go along with that. I don't think. I'd like to think that. I'd like to think that I don't think that. But what they see is what they're focusing on is the religion aspect of that time period, and they want to get back to that, and because they think that was better. They think that part is at least was better than it is today. So anyway, we ready to move on?
Sure.
Okay. Hey, Missing Mod. All right, we've got page 337. I got the verse 1 Corinthians 15:41 highlighted. It says, "There is one glory of the sun and one glory of the moon, and another glory. Oh wait, one glory of the sun and another glory of the moon, and another glory of the stars. For one star differeth from another star in glory." Oh, hey, Big Bad Mama. And so like, this is a section on how do the stars illustrate the glory of peacemakers, and this verse is not talking about peacemakers. It's talking about how our when Christians go to heaven and they get the spiritual body, it's going to be different than their physical body. That's all it's talking about. I don't know. So it's not talking about peacemakers. It's just talking about the glory of the spiritual body versus the physical body. So he's just putting this in there because it mentioned stars. That's all. That's the only reason this verse is here. Well, stars and glory.
Look, they don't expect you to read all the times they put scripture there. Those scriptures aren't important. You got to get the brainwashing, man.
Yeah. Do you have any notes on this page? Because I have one more.
Just a nitpick. That he said this without the sun, the earth would be totally dark, and it would be nearly dark.
Right. You're sure that's a nitpick. All right. For this, my note, we need to go back to page 310 to the table of contents. Because I noticed this question and I was like, well, I wonder what they're going to say there. And it's, how long will it take before our sun fails? And I was like, I wonder if they're going to give the real answer for this, or the scientific answer, or if they're not going to the scientific answer, I wonder what the answer they're going to give. And we're now at that spot. So, before we go over it, what do you think their answer is for how long will it be before the sun fails?
I bet they don't give a time, they give a reference.
Okay, and the reference would be?
I don't know.
Okay.
The revelation, some bullshit.
Okay. Well, they do give a reference. They say it's going to fail at the point in time when God returns at the time of judgment. And so, it's just nice to know that the sun's going to be around until long enough for Jesus to come back.
I mean, that really, really makes me want to talk to some of our pastors about their liberal interpretation of the word soon.
I know, right? I mean, we've now got a timeline for when Jesus is coming back. It's at least 7 billion years from now.
Right. So we got time.
All right. I didn't have any notes. Where's your next note? My next note is on page 340.
Let me see. Oh yeah, questionable science. So my only note about the science, we can go to 340. Was that like the whole thing read kind of like someone put it into Google Translate into another language and then made it English. Like it's almost like the words were weird. Like, and maybe it was them trying to put, the Christian meaning into everything. But it just felt like, man, you guys are really working on these sentences.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that so much. On page 340, they do get a little bit into kind of fine-tuning adjacent. And there's this paragraph.
What do you mean fine-tuning adjacent?
Well, are you familiar with the fine tuning argument for God?
Um, no.
Okay, so the fine tuning argument for God is basically saying, you know, the odds of humans existing in a random universe are so astronomical that the fact that we're here means something must have intended for us to be here.
Okay. Kind of going along with like the Goldilocks zone and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. I've heard of that. I haven't heard it called fine tuning. Okay.
Well, yeah, it goes on to that. Like, is also talking about the cosmological constants and all
Sure.
that,
Sure.
or fundamental constants. I mean, but anyway, so they say it is incredible to realize that God has placed the Earth at this precise point necessary for the sun to keep the Earth at just the right temperature. The Earth's distance from the sun varies less than 3.1 million miles. That would be 3.5 feet if the sun were the size of a basketball. Such a delicate balance keeps the Earth at a point where it is never too cold or too hot. It is the perfect temperature for water, which makes up 50 to 70% of our bodies. To exist as a solid, to exist as a solid, a liquid, and a vapor. And like the range that a planet can have, that the three states of water in its place is I mean, it's not just about the star, how far it is from the star, and it isn't even like the same range for every star, because all the stars are slightly different. But also it's about the planet, because like the planet composition affects how well it retains the heat and stuff. So like it's really, I don't, they're saying, well, this is the perfect place, and this is the perfect place for Earth, I suppose, except it's really not. We don't really know. Like, it's hard. I looked it up, and it's really been really difficult to determine what the habitable zone for our sun and Earth is. Some people had it at, like, less than 10%. We're within a 10%. If we were 10% different either way, it'd be we would not be, we would be outside the habitable zone for Earth and Sol. But other estimates had it as like as far as 10 times, as the habitable zone is up to 10 times how far we are from the sun. So like, I mean, that's a very big range. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't none of this tells me that anything intended for humans to be here.
Well, I mean, like, I'm rarely ever going to say this, but in Gothard's defense, at that time, they taught that photosynthesis was the only possible way that life could have happened. This was only a few years after they discovered the hydrothermal vents, and before that, what do they call it? The heat version of photosynthesis. Before they had established that as a scientific theory. So it might have been a smaller range of habitable zone at that time.
Well, maybe so. It's still, it doesn't matter how big this habitable zone is, though, because if you don't have something that wants it to be a certain way, it just happens to be the way it is, and it's interesting that it could have been a bunch of different ways, but that's no reason to assume that there's some entity that wanted it to be this way versus some other way.
I also think it's very like ethnocentric or human centric to be like, this is the only place that life can be because life can only be made with water.
Well,
like,
yeah,
that's as if to say Earth is the only life kind of planet that life can happen on because that's where we are.
Yeah. What the word you're looking for, I believe, is human chauvinism.
Human chauvinism?
Yep. That's the term that they use for that. But yeah.
It's a weird word. Okay.
All right. Do you have any notes on this page?
No, go ahead.
All right. All right. Page 341, I highlighted this thing about quasars. It says quasars are racing away from the center of the universe at almost the speed of light.
Are they?
Not exactly, no. So the thing is, there is no center of the universe, and it could be like, because you've got to consider that you've got young children, and so sometimes you try to simplify complex concepts just to make them easier to understand, and then you can expand on them for as you get more advanced. So maybe that's what's going on here, but there is no center of the universe, and so that maybe they're trying to simplify it. I would lay bet that they probably just didn't understand that because they don't seem very very scientifically literate, and so they just thought it was going away from the center of the universe. And then I have.
But do we know that quasars are anything other than very bright objects that appeared on the fringe of the universe because of a redshift? Do we know more about them now?
So I mean, I don't know quasars that well. When I search for them, they're quasars are one of the types of massive bodies that form the centers of galaxies.
Oh, okay.
So because the Milky Way galaxy does not have a quasar in the center, all quasars are racing away from us because they're all centers of galaxies.
Oh. So when they said center of the universe, they meant Earth.
I mean, well, that's the thing, isn't it? Because like the way the universe works, no matter where you are in the universe, everything you can see will be going away from you.
Right.
And because of that, there is no center of the universe. Everything is going away from everything.
Well, or everything is the center of the universe.
Or everything, yeah, I mean, sure. That makes more sense, I suppose.
Hey, Neil deGrasse Tyson said that in the thing, so I can say it too, and I can pretend that I understood it.
All right. The other nitpick I had is they say a black hole is a star that traps light by gravity. Because no light is able to escape a black hole's pull, it appears as a shadow in the sky. And black holes aren't stars. They might form from stars, but they're a phenomenon of space-time. And I suspect that they didn't understand this either. I don't think they were trying to simplify it.
That's cool though. That's a good one.
All right.
Black holes are reverse stars.
Well, they're not even. They're just something else altogether.
I know, but that's cool.
All right, and then on page 342, and you need to tell me if I skip over any of your notes.
I mean, dude, this like I skimmed through this, but like it was weird worded science.
Sure.
Other than like inserting God every two inches, like it's just stuff I didn't understand when I was a wee lad.
Right. Yeah, and so yeah, we're getting back into more fine tuning. They say each star has an appointed position that is predictable year after year, and it's kind of correct at human time scales. I mean, stars do move, but not enough so much that you would notice it in your lifetime. But to say that the position is appointed is just not. There's no reason to say that. We don't have a reason to say anything said. You star, you be here. That's just not the way that works. So appointed is just more language to
Yeah, they want to lean into the Jesus part.
Yeah. All right. Next one. They do actually talk about, in this first one, they talk about, or this first comment I have, they do talk about, well, the stars, they correct themselves, and they do say the stars do actually change over time, the positions of the stars. And they use the Big Dipper as an example that, what all those stars were in different positions from each other in the past, and they will be different from each other in the future. Oh, Deviant's lost her internet. Okay. But this last note, I like this last note. Let me read it to you. Or do you have any notes on this page?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So last paragraph on the page. A conjunction.
I know where you're going, and I'm looking forward to it.
So they say stars are a sign that, this is in a section, stars are signs that point the way to Christ. And they say a conjunction of planets occurs when two or more planets are aligned so that their combined reflected light makes them the brightest star in the sky. In 7 BC, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn lined up no fewer than 3 times. The conjunction took place in the constellation called Pisces, the fish. Ancient astronomers, including the wise men, would have known that this was the house of the Hebrews. A conjunction of 3 planets in the house of Hebrews would have certainly fulfilled the prophecy. There shall become a star out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel. And like, they're just using astrology here. Like, that's right. What this is. Like, I read this and I was like, surely they don't realize that they are using, they can't realize they're using astrology, because the IBLP hated astrology.
Mm-hmm. But they talk about it. They talk about it in this book.
Yeah, they talk about it. Yeah, we'll get to that. But that's what this is. You're saying this star, God put these planets in lining in this star to signify things. That's astrology. That means that like if something like that happens again, you're justified in saying, "Oh, God just did something. We need to find out what God did." Like, what are they? How can they not see that they're doing this? Oh,
I don't know, man. Like,
and then also,
it's very weird how much you're supposed to, in the IBLP, how much you're supposed to be afraid of witchcraft and stuff like that. And also, witchcraft is totally not real.
Well, it's demons. But yeah. But also, I think it's funny because, like, it's 7 BC. Like, the earliest date for Christ's birth is possibly 6 BC. Not 7. So, like, why are they bringing 7 up? Like, so what? But, you know, they found something that they could use to say this was something God did. And they ignored all the times that conjunctions happened any other time because it didn't line up with something that they liked from the Bible. It's confirmation bias at its worst.
For sure.
So next page, each star. I started with each star. The very first line is each star was personally named by God. And then one paragraph down. This is a continuation of this note. The only stellar bodies that are named in Scripture are Arcturus, Orion, and the Pleiades. They're named in Job 9:9, 38 through 31 through 32, and Amos 5:8. Because these names were given by God from the foundation of the world, it's not surprising that almost every culture has the same names for these stars. Now, first of all, those are Greek names. So God spoke Greek, apparently, even though his people spoke ancient Hebrew. And also, I just was like, well, that sounds a little surprising that all cultures have the same name. So I looked it up, and you know what it turns out?
I'll bet they did all have the same name.
Actually, no, they do not
No?
all. They do not all have
Shocked.
the same name for those stars.
Shocked. Shocked.
And
What it
then
what it how the turntables.
and then they go from that to uh God. There's 3 stars named in the Bible, so God named all the stars personally, every single one.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
It's just, it's wild.
I like, man, they really care a whole lot. Like, is there a thing where you have a fetish for words or language?
I'm
Because
sure.
Gothard just seems super obsessed with language all the time.
I mean, I'm sure there is. I would.
Like in no other place in Christianity have I found where it's so much would change based on, well, in the old English, this word would mean this, and so therefore peacemaker means witnessing.
Right. Yeah. Well, okay. So double speak. Yeah, definitely. The IBLP does double speak. It's it's a tactic. Because like if I can change the way you use words when you talk to people that aren't in our group and don't use those words the same way, you will not be able to communicate as effectively with those people because you won't be saying the same thing. What you're saying, they will not understand, and vice versa. When they say something, you will not understand what they're saying. It's a way of isolating the people that are in the group from the people that are out of the group. So
Huh.
yeah, they're definitely Bill Gothard definitely has a thing for redefining words so that they're not the standard definitions.
You know, interesting. So I was doing, I was just, I had to drop out for a minute because of back injury, but I was in massage therapy school, and I was strongly opposed to the way that they would define terms based on this. Like a POS is a point of is not a point of sale. Like I learned, it's posterior operational something, and I'm like, that's you can't just define words, and it bothers me. I guess this is probably why.
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, like personally, my thought on words is words only mean what the person using the word means at the moment they're using it. Because they have a concept in their head and they're trying to communicate that concept. And that's the word only means that concept in that specific instance. It's nice if we have a common understanding of what that word means, so that when you say a word and the concept that you're thinking of is the same concept I'm thinking of, but it doesn't change what the word means when they used it. So,
Man, but I bet you got even worse to argue with.
probably so. All right. Uh, Deviant says, going back to oh, we haven't done that. Okay, so this is we'll talk about. We're going back to astrology, so we'll read Deviant's comment here. The wise men weren't astrologers; they were magi. It has nothing to do with magic. It has to do with magistrate. They were kings. This is an old misconception of the church. Um, I don't. I honestly, I don't know. This is the first time I've heard of that. It's interesting. I never thought of magistrate and magic. I wonder if they have the same root of some sort. But either way, it doesn't change what the IBLP was doing, which was, first of all, completely doing astrology, and second of all, ignoring all the other times that there were conjunctions and focusing on the one time that it fit their narrative. But on to my next note. The this is under the section, the message of the stars has been twisted and misused by man. The pagan study of the stars is called astrology. The difference between astrology and astronomy is that astrologers worship the stars themselves and believe that the stars and planets have a direct influence on man's destiny. Horoscopes attribute the power to influence lives to the stars rather than to God, who created the stars. This is a form of misplaced worship that is common today. Now, I don't think anyone, well, I can't say no one. I don't think the most people who believe in astrology worship the stars. They believe that they predict the future or have an influence on their life.
Right, but that's not the point of this. This is more that doublespeak. The point is, when your annoying kid talks to someone about astrology, they'll be like, "Oh no, you worship the stars," and the person will try to correct them. They'll be like, "Oh, you're lying to me."
Well, yeah, that could be so.
Like this is isolation.
Sure. Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so. But
Like they don't care about other religions. They don't care if they get it wrong. They don't care about other belief systems. They don't care if they get it wrong. This isn't about education. This is about brainwashing.
True. Yep.
Or indoctrination.
Yeah. I just thought it was hilarious that they condemn astrology when they used it on the previous page. And just the hypocrisy in this is palpable.
It's pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah. All right. My next note is on page 349. Do you have any notes before that?
Just on so your projects here they've got.
Uh-huh.
Like how different would we think about this group? Because they're like, let's write out 12 main points from this resource and how you can do this to be twisted into this witnessing and whatever. Like, how different would this have been if it was like, write out 12 biblical methods of making peace in this world?
Right. Yeah. Yeah,
like this cult, the more I study it, with open eyes, it doesn't do anything but recreate itself. It doesn't they don't build a better world. They don't have any goals. They just want to create more of themselves.
Well,
it's a virus.
Yeah. I mean, from their perspective, what they're saying is, if everyone were like us, the world would be a better place. And the world
if everyone were like you, you'd all be isolated and secretly judging each other as not good enough.
No.
Like that's what those conferences were.
No. You would be discerning the root problems.
Right.
Not judging. All right, moving on. Do you have any notes? Where's your next note?
Mine is on 345.
Okay. Let's do it.
Oh, okay. Just it's at the very bottom, on the bottom right. There are only two religions in the world. The one invented by men that supposes he can save himself by ceremonies and good works, and the one which is revealed in the Bible. That is unbearably like Christian-centric, Eurocentric. Like, just there are only two religions in the world, ours and the fake and all the fake ones. I don't even know how to comprehend the arrogance there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's this the in-group out-group. It's saying you're either with us, you're on our side, or you're on the not our side. It isn't. Right. They're creating a true dichotomy. It's just ignoring all the nuance of the out group. and they're fine with doing that. They've done that every time they talk about other groups. They've been, like we talked about last week, with the other cultures. They are fine with just taking some snippet of this culture's, religion or mythology or whatever, and just saying, "Oh, yeah, this is a corrupted version of my religion, which is the true religion."
Right.
They're not interested in understanding anyone else. They are only interested in making more of themselves. So, all right, where's your next note?
Um. Well, it was on page 346.
Okay.
So I don't like John Calvin. Just putting it out there.
Okay.
So they're talking about this is above the first sentence above the second picture. Many were attracted to his sincere manner and his new doctrine. Why is it that so many Christians want a new way of looking at things rather than just going back to the cool shit Jesus said?
I don't know, because in some ways they don't. They want to go back to, like I said, they look back at like the 19th century and like that's the ideal.
Sure, but they don't want to go. They don't want to go back to Jesus. They want to go back to like a little bit where we can idealize some things and make it good. But we like you never hear Christians quoting Jesus.
I would
Like they talk about Paul a lot. They quote Paul a lot. They quote the Bible a lot. But like I can't remember a time a Christian, like since I left, since I stopped going to sermons, said a word of Jesus. Like, blessed are the peacemakers, blessed are, it's always this new way of looking at things rather than like, I would still say that a small group of Christians could change the world, but none of them want to do what Jesus said. That was just my point. Like, why are they always after a new version rather than just being like, oh yeah, this one guy said we should be nice to each other and do this cool stuff and take care of the poor and weak.
Yeah. I mean it'd be nice. All right. What's your next note?
Uh, let's see. Printing press, more lies about John Calvin. He talked about how great Switzerland was when they required church attendance, like it was mandatory. That's always great.
What page is that?
Page 349.
Okay, so I have one on this, but
Okay.
So top of the second column says the Scaffolding Act, based upon Old Testament
Oh yeah.
regulations, required rails and shutters to prevent the common occurrence of children falling out of windows. So I tried to find the Scaffolding Act, couldn't find any references to that at all. So I don't know what the Scaffolding Act actually said, and I don't know if it actually was based on the Old Testament. But I seriously cannot believe that human beings needed the Bible to tell them about railings to keep kids from falling off of buildings. I'm pretty sure people could have thought of that without reading the Old Testament.
Yeah, Deviant gets it.
All right. Well, let's read her comments then. It says, it's as what I usually say. It's not as much the religion of Christ. It's the religion of Paul. Ask a Christian about how a Christian should act, or what they should believe. 8 out of 10, or even 9 out of 10 times they reference Paul's letters. Paul didn't even meet Jesus. Now, I would agree with you on that. A lot of Christian doctrine and theology is based on the letters of Paul versus things that are attributed to Jesus. I don't think that I would disagree that they never quote Jesus. Like, they judge not lest you be judged. That's from Jesus. Ask and it shall be given to you. That's from Jesus. I hear those a lot, or used to anyway. But certainly, like, the way you should be as a Christian, that comes more from Paul than from Jesus, I would say. All right. Do you have any other notes?
Not till 346.
Not till 346. We're on 349.
Oh.
So we'll go back to 346.
No. You're right. I'm just got dyslexia.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the upside down 6 is a 9, man.
Okay.
How do you not know this? So are we on 350 now or 349? Where are we at?
Is your note on 349?
I just like that he required church attendance.
Okay.
Like, to be a citizen, you gotta attend church. And I wish Christians would study more of their own history. I mean, I wish everyone would study more of their own history, but like on page 350, right next to the picture of Catherine of Medici, it just throws out that on August 27th that year, the French troops kill 70,000 Protestants.
Right. Yeah, I saw that.
Like,
and the thing is, I thought about like saying something about that, but the fact is, the IBLP would not say that's Christians murdering anyone, because those French troops were Catholic.
Oh,
and
I mean, be that as it may, like, just this whole Christian nationalist movement, when you let religion dictate military decisions, lots of people die.
I agree with you, but they don't see it that way. They see when you let the wrong religion dictate it. If you let the right religion dictate, that won't happen. That's how what they believe.
I mean, both sides in this conflict said they were Christians.
Right, but we both know that the Catholics aren't really Christians,
I guess.
They're actually using this as an argument against what you're saying, because they're saying John Calvin had a proper Protestant Christian state religion and didn't kill anyone. So I mean, they're using this to argue against exactly what you're saying. I don't know enough. I don't know.
While
enough.
that is true, like, they still have to admit that, like, when we have state religions at this time, there was lots of atrocities. The more we get God and gods and religion out of government, the less wars we have.
Yeah.
Like, and it makes sense. Like, we have lots of reasons to go to war. There's like scarcity of resources. You've insulted my family. I just don't like the color red. There's all these reasons we could go to war. But then you add religion in and you have a whole huge number of other reasons we could go to war. And we just want to avoid all the reasons we can. So let's keep, like, one, I don't care if they insulted you. Also, I don't care if they don't like your religion. Don't do that stuff.
Right.
I don't know how anyone can look at history and not come to that conclusion.
Yeah, one guy a while back, was like saying, he was defending or debunking the arguments against Christianity, and one of the arguments he debunked, and it was like a TikTok thing. So he was like making a statement and then a statement as an argument, and then giving like a one sentence rebuttal of that.
Sure.
But he said something along the lines of, religion causes wars, and he said, well, actually, most wars are not caused by religion. He brought up some statistic, and first of all, that's not a rebuttal. The argument wasn't religion causes all wars. The argument is religion causes wars. If it's caused one war or two wars, religion has caused wars.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think you could argue that religion hasn't caused at least two wars.
At least two this month.
All right. All right. What's your next note?
Let's see. So there's this
what page?
Page 351.
Okay, I got one on page 351 as well.
Okay. So during the time of this king, more than 250,000 Huguenots, which were the Protestants of that time, of the area, were forced to flee France. And then it goes, most of these were skilled craftsmen, merchants, doctors, and lawyers. I don't know why they decided, where they make that statement, because that's not true. Their absence not only created an economic loss for France, but also a spiritual void, which was quickly filled by humanistic forces. This influence eventually led to the French Revolution.
Yeah.
That's an incredible statement.
I thought so too, but I didn't have the... I was skeptical of that, but I didn't have the patience to research it well enough to see exactly what they were missing.
I mean, it does bring up a theory I've recently come up with. So there's this idea that, like, you know how like Rome fell because it got, became immoral, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've heard that.
Yeah.
And there are, like, I don't know about the historicity of them, but when I was in the religion, there is historical evidence that, like, during its latter days, Rome got more open to things, kind of like the U.S. is now. Like, we have prosperity, and so we're able to do more self-realization, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And so we have people like talking about, hey, maybe I'm not this gender, maybe this isn't my identity. We're doing all these things, and there is a correlation that Christians will make where, like, that is when society starts to fail. But I would posit the theory that it's not the decadence that allows it to fail, but the prosperity that allows us to have that decadence is quickly followed by rich people screwing over everybody, and then society falls. Because the decadence that allows that sort of that sort of climbing of Maslow's hierarchy by the common man is quickly going to be exploited by the rich. And if I ever want to do a master's in history, I'm going to write that paper.
It's an interesting thought. I've heard that Rome fell because it went into decadence. I never believed that, and to this day, I mean, I don't know why Rome fell, but I would be very surprised if it was a single reason. Doesn't seem likely to me. It seems like it's more complex than that.
If you would like my reasoning, I think they didn't adapt to heavy cavalry.
I mean, if you like my reasoning, they didn't adapt to the Black Plague, but
well, then you go into the whole much bigger historical redefinition of what is Rome.
Well, sure. All right. My note. Do you have any more notes on this page? Mine's towards the end of the page.
I think yours is on the music.
Yes.
I also have one on the music, so you go first.
Okay. So they say the emphasis that John Calvin put on promoting good music is not without significance, since the songs of a nation can be more powerful in influencing people than the laws of a nation. And I think I know what Martel's going to say, but to me, I think they're putting a little too much stock in the rhetorical power of music. I think music can bolster attitudes that, in certain situations, music can bolster attitudes, but I don't think it can change attitudes, like reshape them to be something that they weren't before. Uh,
Um, go ahead.
no, that's my note. What's yours?
Um, I like that. Like, so I don't know if we've covered in these things because I got those memory problems, but I do remember the Gothard was very, 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 very much against rock music and new music,
Mm-hmm.
and so his had weird ideas about how like the upbeat and the downbeat could summon demons or some dumb stuff.
Well, it wasn't. It
And
wasn't that. It was a beat that mimicked the beats that they use in Africa. It was super racist the way he thought about it.
right, right. Um, but he's talking about John Calvin's music, and I'm sure that in Gothard's mind, John Calvin's music was like traditional and good. But John Calvin's music was the rock music of its day because they were singing to God in their own languages rather than the Latin of the Catholic Church. And so this was like the radical cutting, like this is the stuff that would have been on the edge of the radio station. Like they'd be so this was hot shit, man. And so Gothard being like music is important. Um, I don't
Yeah,
think I don't think he's understanding the context of the music he's glorifying there,
right.
and I think that's funny.
I mean, yeah, the last time I took paid any attention to, and this was when I was like really young, but I stopped paying attention to Bill Gothard's views on music, and what is godly music versus not godly music. Uh, when I learned that Beethoven in his day was controversial, I was
Right.
like, oh, well, if he was controversial at his time, then all that means is that whoever's making music today is controversial to the people that are older than that person. And so that's just a part of the human condition, apparently.
I mean, since Plato, at least.
Yeah. All right. Do you have any other notes on this page?
Not on this page.
All right, let's go on. All right. I have one towards the end of the first column. Do you have any?
No, go ahead.
All right. So we've got the existence of three branches of government in America can be traced back beyond monarchy of England back to the principles of Scripture which God originally gave the nation of Israel. The executive branch consisted of leaders such as Moses, Joshua, and the judges. The judicial branch was composed of the priests and the Levites who interpreted and carried out the law, and the legislature was made up of the elders of Israel who were the heads of families. This tripartite structure continued even after Israel turned from God's ideal to choose a king. The king, as chief executive, was instructed to write his own personal copy of God's law and read it daily. The Levites and priests were to teach and execute the law, and the elders of Israel were to manage the family units within Israel. And they are just making this up. I don't remember the elders of Israel ever being mentioned as a body making laws. The executive and judicial branches were not strictly defined in Israel. In fact, there were no branches. What they're doing is squinting real hard and saying, this is like that. And they just can't see clearly.
I mean, I'm going to bring back youth pastor Tim for a minute.
Okay.
So it says that the executive branch consisted of Moses, Joshua, judges, judicial branch consisted of Levites, and then there was a legislature, right?
Right.
That's what it says. In Judges 17:16, 18:1, 19:1, 21:25, when this is in the book of Judges when it's talking about the judges, it says this verse. At this time Israel had no king, so everyone did as they saw fit.
Yep.
This isn't even biblical, man. Like this is just like
no. That's what I'm saying. Like
this wasn't true. Just based on like a one read through the Bible.
Yeah, they're making it up. They're taking what we have today, and they're just fitting it, smashing it into into this round hole when it's a square peg, and they're just making it fit so that they can say, "Yeah, see, this."
I'm curious as to why, though.
Oh, it's easy. They want to say that the way our nation is set up is based on the Bible. Like that's what Christian nationalism, one of their core beliefs is our nation isn't just a Christian nation. It's founded on Christianity. It falls apart if you take Christianity away. You know, that's what they're trying to get to. And so they have to show that that the way our government is set up is based on something in the Bible. They have to do that, and it has to be ancient Israel because that's the only nation that God set up in the Bible, and so they've got to have that be reflected, or we aren't a Christian nation.
Well, I mean, I understand why Christian nationalists do it. I don't know why Gothard did it.
Well, Gothard, the IBLP was Christian nationalists before there were Christian nationalists. Like that's what what I was saying.
Like, do you think Gothard was trying to like change the U.S. or was he just trying to build his cult?
I would say yeah. He probably. I would say he would have supported changing the U.S. if he thought that was possible. And I don't know if he thought it was possible or not. But if he thought it was possible, he would have. I mean, there was like, did you watch Shiny Happy People?
Yeah.
Okay. So like after we were in it, like in the late 90s, early 2000s, yeah, look into the Joshua generation. That's what Panda is bringing up. They were, and IBLP was part of this. They were working into, doing this. They were working towards Christian nationalism. And it wasn't.
I mean, they still are, but yeah.
Yeah, but so the IBLP is early on in the Christian nationalist movement. It started in the late 70s, early 80s. IBLP is started in the late 60s. They are proto-Christian nationalism, and by proto I mean they are the same thing. And it's before like it became a movement. They were part of making it into a movement.
Man. What the heck were we into, man?
A lot of crazy stuff. All right. Do you have any notes on this page?
So, I mean, I kind of what you said. Also, thought it was weird that there's the king, the chief executive, was instructed to write his own personal copy of God's law.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you're not supposed to change that, right?
Well, I don't think they were. I think they meant like write it as in physically write it. He wasn't supposed to. Wasn't supposed to like make any changes. It's supposed to be an exact copy. He's just supposed to write it because, it's kind of like they say, if you read something or that you remember it, you memorize
I think you're being very generous with language and words with a guy who's very toxic about language and words.
Well, I'm talking about what the original intention of the scripture is. I didn't read I didn't read Deuteronomy 17:18 through 19. I'm going to take their word that it says they should write their personal copy of God's law. But certainly those verses are not going to say you write your own version of it. Is they're saying you write it exactly as it is and read it every day.
Deuteronomy 17, 18, and 19. And it shall be that when he sitteth upon the throne of the kingdom, he shall write him a copy of the book of copy of this law in a book out of which is before the priests and Levites.
Yeah, I would assume that because I think what they're saying is like at the time, it was copying books was very labor intensive, and so like they're saying, hey, the king should have a copy of the law because if he's going to be executing the law, he should know what the law is. He should have a copy of the law. It's on him to make sure that he gets that copy. That's what the verses are saying, I'm sure.
Well, I think it's included here. You don't think it's included here so that you can give pastors and fathers like of the cult franchise cover to reinterpret scripture?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
They don't change the words of scripture. They change the meaning of words. So like they would not be endorsing, hey, write down this law and change the words. They want you to write the words exactly the way they are in the Bible.
Right. I know. I'm not saying they want to change the Bible. I'm saying they want to give people cover to give their leaders cover to reinterpret what scripture means.
Well, yeah, but they don't do that by changing the words. They do that by changing what the words mean.
Right. Okay. Never mind.
Okay. My next note is by the Swiss flag. It says, because the Lord Jesus Christ and his principles were adopted by the government of Switzerland, its people have enjoyed unusual blessings from the Lord. Ironically, other nations which have not acknowledged Christ as king have tried to use Geneva as a place in which to work out international accords and agreements and conventions. And like, in the history of Switzerland, a lot of the stuff that they're praising Switzerland for happened after they became secular, not while they were living under the rules that John Calvin set up in the 14th century.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of it started happening in the 20th century. So it's just weird to me that they're ignoring. I mean, it's not weird to me. It's funny to me that they're ignoring that Switzerland is a very secular country today. And it's enjoying this because they're secular, not because of their Christian roots.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I have one last note for this book. And it's on page 353.
Yes, so is mine.
You don't have any more notes after that?
No, I have a note on 353.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if I have any after that. I'll look.
Well, while you're looking, I'm going to go ahead and read my note. It's in the middle of the second column. It says, with each step of the sole of the foot, with each step, the sole of the foot is compressed and relaxed, creating a pumping action which forces out blood out of each foot. And in this section, they're talking about how the soles of the feet act as secondary pumps to help blood get back to your heart, so that the heart doesn't have to work as hard. And that's just not. I don't know why they did that. I don't know why they focused on the soles of the feet, because that's not what the soles do. It's the moving your feet does do that. It's just not the soles, it's the calves. And I just thought it was weird that they would just, for no reason that I can perceive, just say it's the soles of the feet. Anyway, right. What was your note?
So I don't know if you have continued taking long walks or hiking. But messengers, according to Bill Gothard, Messengers who walk on mountains must have feet which are excellent condition, or the message will not get through. After traveling over rugged heights, feet will be swollen and bruised. Um, I just I wonder if Bill Gothard's ever been hiking. I've never bruised my feet by walking. Like I've rolled an ankle and stuff before, but that's not.
Hmm.
I don't know. Just he's so reaching to make everything like just you gotta milk. Uh, you gotta milk everything for its spiritual analogy, and it's just man, it's just reaching.
Yeah.
Um, like you talked about in the before we talked about the foot pumping thing, he had a deal where soldiers who are required to stand at attention for long periods of time, known to faint from inactivity, so much blood builds up in their feet that their legs, in their feet that their legs, in their feet and legs that the brain suffers from lack of oxygen. But that's if you lock your knees.
Right.
Like that's not how that works. I don't know. It just I wish I wish I had not had this stuff as precursors for stuff I learned later because I'm still weeding out some of this junk. And like it's dumb to like, when I come up with like philosophy and life questions that I'm like, oh, that doesn't mean what I thought it means. It got this. But like stupid things like health, man,
Yeah, it
why
can be.
why why they have to give us bad health advice? Like even the parts that are right. Like I know more about the feet and the bones since I did a massage therapy class, but this is it's as if someone Google translated from another language. Like it, they just don't. That's not how the words work. It's just it made us weird, man.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is like they do have. You remember there was one of the previous ones was talking about how uh, doctors uh, use medicine when what they should be dealing with is the spiritual issue
Right.
of the person. Um, the IBLP has this skepticism of modern medicine,
I know.
and so it doesn't surprise me when they give bad medical advice or misrepresent medical ideas or concepts, because one, they don't believe modern medicine has it correct, but two, like, well, and it's related to that, they don't study it, they don't know what modern medicine says because they don't believe it, so they why would you study it?
I guess that's true.
And so the fact that they get stuff wrong is just like, well, yeah, because you don't know anything.
Man. Like, not to be super current events, but like
Oh yeah.
with them eliminating the Department of Education, I am looking at this stuff that we were taught as and like I wouldn't say our parents are like dumb. They just got fooled. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're thinking individuals.
Yeah.
Like I've been fooled by stuff before. How many schools and kids and homeschools are going to be doing this stuff
Well,
soon?
and like, last year, or maybe it was year before that, in our state, PragerU got approved as official curriculum.
Right.
And it's straight up propaganda. All of it is propaganda. Um,
I mean,
there's we're 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 in a post-truth society now, and there's a lot of factors that go into that. Um, but I'd say the biggest factor is we have information overload because of the internet and social media,
Yeah.
and the algorithm. Like I the algorithm is great. It's an amazing piece of technology, but it puts you it can't help but put you in an echo chamber where you
Mm-hmm.
only see the things that you agree with. And when you get in an echo chamber, you don't see any opposing viewpoints, and you start to see anything but that you don't already believe as as the more you're in that echo chamber, the more you see that as being lunacy. Um, and I think we're seeing the effects of that with the current government.
Yeah.
And I'm I'm not. At some point, it's going to come apart. I almost think it has to, but I don't know that it's not going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah. Yeah. I was talking to some friends and we were trying to guess whether we're going to survive the next 10 years or just going to die in some dumb bullshit because of Trump fans. And my best guess for myself is I got a 40% chance of living.
Hmm.
Like there's things that I can't let happen.
Right.
If they come for uh my friend Alondra, I will, or one of my other friends that are at risk because they've only lived here their whole lives, but their parents weren't legal. Like crazy. But we haven't asked for questions from the chat, and we haven't done our most toxic thing.
Oh, you didn't have any more notes through the rest of it?
I don't.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Let's
I mean,
do.
like they just do a bad explanation of feet. Like those were my notes on the last page.
Okay. All right. So yeah, Chad, if you guys have any questions, now's the time to post them. Martel, what was your most toxic thing?
Um, I mean, it's more of a concept, but the way they tried to shoehorn uh early government or early America into into judges, and it just like it's so bad and it doesn't fit, but it tries to tie religion to this country in a way that is currently causing some real problems. So to me, that has to be the most toxic thing. Like,
Yeah, I mean, to me, I agree with you that um, when I was thinking about, hey, what's the most toxic thing? I kind of think we've got just kind of like maybe I've just gotten kind of a I don't know a resistance to it at this point. Like I've developed uh, an inoculation to their toxicity, and so like I'm not seeing it as much as I did in the beginning. It's all like
you are definitely getting blasé. You're like, yeah, that's just normal brainwashing, man. Let's move on. We've said that before, and I'm like, yeah, but that's the point. Is brainwashing? It's bad.
right, yeah. Well, and that's what I'm saying. Like it's all kind of like this baseline level of toxicity, and I don't think it's not toxic, but like picking out one thing as the most toxic out of this, it's I would agree with you. That's probably the most toxic, but like it's all kind of toxic, and it's all just like how do you pick the one thing? I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, so we have Panda asking, how do you both combat this teaching in your everyday life? Um, I I don't I don't know. I don't feel like it comes up in my everyday life that much. So I don't really, other than like it's not there. How about you, Martel?
Well, I'm curious if there was something specific Panda meant about this teaching.
Uh, yeah.
Um, but I find the big concepts pretty easy to be like, oh no, I'm like when I think about history or something, there are parts of history that I learned when I believe the Earth was 6,000 years old, and I'll find myself thinking in that pattern, and those are pretty easy to be like, no, that's not how that works, and be able to switch it up for that. It's a lot harder uh, on some of the insidious like life concepts where they talk about like whose fault something is, or the way that I internalize guilt, or the way that I do conflict resolution is so self-destructive to myself. I like I'm missing some of that I'm still trying to work through.
So what do you? How do you uh combat that? And
Right
and
now?
and yeah, and Panda clarified. She says, "How do you combat the behavior control?" So she's talking about the stuff that you're saying you're having trouble with.
Oh, well, currently I either like brute force decide I'm going to be a good guy and make myself be a good guy, or if that fails, I have a panic attack and get high about it.
Okay, there you
I'm
go.
in therapy. I'm in therapy, man. What do you want?
All right.
like, like I like I tried to commit myself in December, and they were like, "Now we're full, and you're probably okay."
Oh man.
Um, yeah, it's awesome. Um, and then Deviant had a question.
Oh yeah. Okay. So she says, "Do you, and if so, to what degree do you feel your education has stunted your ability to comprehend the world as it is?" Um, I would say that certainly there are subjects that I find that I'm interested in. That I do I do I feel like I have a pretty good handle like on the broad strokes of the subject, but there are details that I just don't have a good handle on that I would probably have a better handle on if I had had a different education. Um, but as far as like when I'm told those details, I can comprehend them. I just don't have them in my head. That's how I feel about it. I do wonder, like, I find I'm interested in subjects now as an adult. And sometimes I wonder, hey, would I have, if I had been exposed to that as a child, this subject, would I have, you know, pursued that as uh, more in my life earlier on? And how would that have changed my life? And I don't know if that's the case. And I'm sure everyone has that same experience. I'm sure I'm not unique in that. Uh, anyway, how about you, Martel?
Um, I find this education to have very much uh, be a part of why I have memory problems. Uh, it's very difficult for me to take in new knowledge, partially because I internally believe that what's the point? I will eventually find out this knowledge is also not true.
Oh man, that is rough.
Yeah. And so like also like the number of times in my life that have been like, okay, this is what good people are and these are the good people, and then found out that like, oh no, they're racist assholes. Fuck. And then like my whole worldview's turned upside down because the people I said is like, these are my chosen people, this is who I want to be like, these who I look up to were terrible people that man, I have a whole lot of trouble trying to figure out what good and evil is.
Huh. You know, so So when you deconverted from Christianity, did your morality change?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, quite a bit. There was a lot of Christianity that like I had to do deep study and stuff to like reconcile why the heck do like why are the gays bad?
Right. Okay.
Like and the best I could come up with was that like, well, it's a sin, but so's lying and so's uh stealing, and like I've lied, I've stole.
Yeah. All right. Uh, Deviant Deviant has some more. I think maybe expanding on her question. She says, like, we all have pockets of missing knowledge and understanding, but then there are basic stuff that every kid should know, and that they need to be able to dive deeper into whatever it might be. Like, say you're going to change oil in your car, everyone might not be able to do it, but they can easily get that knowledge and understand it. Then there are those who are like car, and they have to find out what the heck that is to begin with before all the other stuff. Okay. Given that, I would say that certainly there were some things that were definitely left out of my education, um, and it's the things that you would the it's the usual suspects when it comes to young Earth creationism. It's I was not taught anything about evolution. Uh, Philosophy was I was told is evil because it's going to teach you man's way of thinking, and I have had to like learn about that as an adult on my own. And I don't feel like I have like uh, a great handle on a lot of that, but I do understand it. I don't think it's hindered my ability to comprehend it. I feel like I do understand it at least on an intuitive level now. And when someone explains details to me, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I can comprehend it. Um, Anyway, do you have anything to say about that, or do we want to go back? Because I did have more to say about the morality thing.
Um, there's definitely big gaps in my knowledge and stuff that I'm still not sure that I understand. Um, like there are things I learned last year that changed my understanding of the female reproductive system, but I don't know if that's because of being raised in the cult or being raised in stupid America.
Sure. Well, I'll give you an
Um,
example of a misunderstanding that I had, but but I don't feel like it was it was a mistake in my comprehension. It was just a detail that I didn't get, and so like to me, having the details wrong is not is different than having difficulty comprehending it. So, like I I had been under the impression because I'd never really learned it in I didn't learn it in at all in school, and I never taught myself this in as an adult. Um, I thought that apes evolved from monkeys, and they didn't. They share a common ancestor with monkeys. Like I thought, and I knew that like apes didn't evolve from the monkeys we have today, but I thought that the common ancestor of modern monkeys and modern apes was a monkey, and it wasn't. It was something else. Um, and so like that's a detail that I got wrong, but I don't consider that a problem with my comprehension. It's like not knowing the date that a certain battle in the Civil War happened. It's a detail that doesn't really affect a whole lot, and it's easy. It's That's the kind of thing that's easy to correct.
and you feel like that's mostly what you deal with?
Yeah, I do. I feel like that.
Man, I constantly worry that I still don't understand stuff.
I well, so and there's that. Like if I'm talking to someone, I do feel like I don't have a lot of knowledge, but I feel like that about everything. Like if someone were to tell me, uh, like I'm pretty good at math, but if someone were to tell me something about math that I thought was wrong, I would not necessarily. It would have to be something like very basic, like 2 plus 2 equals 5, before I would contradict them, because I, I always believe that there's a very good chance that I'm just incorrect about something, and so I don't
Well, that makes me wonder about a lot of our conversations because you very rarely assume I'm right.
Oh, I like to play devil's advocate, even for positions that I don't uh, agree with. Um, and uh, I do have, I feel like I do have a pretty good grasp on like um, logic, like logical fallacies are something that I've recognized. Not that I could name them, but when I could recognize that hey, that doesn't follow, or there's a nuance here that they're missing. Like I could recognize that from a very young age, and so like when we were arguing, it's more me arguing about like, hey, there's this leap in logic that I see that you're taking that is not warranted, or something along those lines. It's not
Man,
necessarily about.
you should watch the presidential debates with me. Uh,
Well,
I made a sheet for logical fallacies. Uh, at first, one of my friends was like, "I'm gonna try and keep up and make that a drinking game." And after like 23, he was like, "No." But last time, like Kamala Harris got like 8, Donald Trump got like 40, and the moderators got 2.
okay. Um, yeah. So anyway, I don't remember where we were at now.
I think you need to check the chat and see what Deviant's saying because Deviant's saying a lot.
Yeah. So we got oh damn, Martel, I just keep seeing myself, my own experience in you and yours. Just let me say I feel you. I might not know the details, but I do understand. To me, it feels as if the trauma I've experienced has literally turned my brain into a semi useless lump that only functions randomly and to some degree. And I never know what state that useless slump is going to be in from day to day or even hour to hour. I'm terrified a lot of the time of being asked questions on subjects that are my subjects because I know, but I don't always know if I'll even be able to formulate a sentence or make words.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I
And
feel that so much.
I will say this: I know other people that have gone through this cult or had trauma in their past, and that seems to be a common problem that people with trauma have felt or deal with. Um. So, all right. I think that's about it. Do you have any last words, Martel?
Um, no, think we're good. I see no reason to talk about this off the air. I had a much better time taking notes with a hard copy. Will that is there a way we can incorporate that into what we're doing here?
Okay. So, well, let's talk about that off the air.
Are you
Uh.
sure the chat doesn't want to know? It could be interesting. You don't know what our chat likes, but okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about that off the air.
All right.
All right. Hey, everybody, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week, hopefully.
Yeah, next week.